Hey there, and welcome to the Gentle Beginnings podcast. I am Toby Deitch, childbirth educator, founder of Gentle Beginnings, and creator of the Brain Body Birth course. If you're pregnant, preparing for birth, navigating postpartum, or just figuring out life with a newborn, you're in the right place. There is so much information out there, and it can feel like a lot. My goal with this podcast is to make things feel a little simpler, to help you feel less overwhelmed, less stressed, and more confident in yourself and your choices. Think of this as a place where you can take a deep breath, learn something new, and walk away feeling a little more calm, prepared, and excited for what's ahead. I'm so glad you're here. Let's dive in. Hi, and welcome back to the Gentle Beginnings podcast. I'm your host, Toby Deitch. Today, we're back with another incredible episode. We have Chanie coming on to share her birth story. I am so honored that she agreed to come on and let everyone learn from what she experienced. And I think listening to birth stories are so powerful. I know for myself, I binge birth stories when I'm pregnant. So this one is a really powerful one that I think a lot of people will learn so much from. And Chanie was also a brain body birth student. So it's really so nice to see the full circle. So welcome, Chanie.
Hey, how are you today?
I'm good. All right. So let's go back to early pregnancy. How were you feeling? What were your thoughts around birth and pregnancy in general? What were you hoping for?
I was really sick this time around. I could not get out of it for almost 5 months. I would barely eat. I took IV in early pregnancy. I could not keep water down. And birth in general was pretty scary to me. My first 2 kids, my water broke at 38 weeks. I was induced. My daughter, I ended up having, they suctioned her because her heart rate was dropping. Yeah, they did not tell me what they were doing. They did not explain to me why they did it. Not in the hospital and not afterwards. They did not tell me your heart rate dropped and that's why we vacuumed you. They did not tell me anything. So I was really afraid of giving birth again because I thought that was going to happen to me, that my water was going to break. I'm not going to be in labor yet and I won't be anything open and I'll have to be induced, which was a very scary experience for me by the first 2. Birth was a very scary, and also that's what was taught to us, like when I took classes by my first one, it was also like birth was a very painful experience and a very unhappy experience. The after is what was happy that you get a child out of it, Baruch Hashem, but birth in general is a very taboo thing that I did not enjoy in particular.
So you had a very difficult early pregnancy. Nausea is the worst. Everyone,
Yeah.
I'm sure, a lot of people listening can relate to that. And to the point where you literally needed to have IV fluids. And on top of that, you were freaking out about birth because you did not want to have a repeat of the last 2 times, which were not a great experience for you. And I think that there's so much misinformation about birth that is repeated, and people, they hear it and then they believe it and they integrate it into their life and they manifest these versions of birth that really could go a whole different way. So then what happened? You weren't feeling the greatest physically and mentally, and something changed.
I like knowing a lot of things. I like knowing information. Yet I don't enjoy weaving out all the unwanted information. I feel like when you go to the library and you ask them for a pregnancy book, which I did, I was told like there's a whole section. No one can tell me what's a good one, what's not a good one, which one is evidence-based, which one's not. And I heard about your course, that your course is evidence-based. So I originally took your course just to be informed, to understand just physically the birth process. What does your body go through? I did not imagine that I'll end up changing my entire life. I did not originally come for the mind and body. I really just came because I knew that you're 100% evidence-based, and I really wanted to just understand what does your body go through to deliver, to heal, so on and so forth. I really just wanted to know where I'm standing, because the doctors aren't telling you that. The doctors come in, they take an ultrasound, and they walk out. They barely answer your questions, mostly. And I was not comfortable going with midwives because I did not understand it. So I really came to just understand what will physically happen to your body while you give birth.
So you wanted education. You wanted real education. Don't give me fluff. And also don't give me like the other side of the spectrum, which is like fear mongering as well. And how was that for you once we started working?
So once we started working together, I signed up for your course. You said, "Oh, I work with an app that's Tracy Donegan created, and download it." When I'm pregnant, I have insomnia. I cannot sleep. I wake up 10 times in the middle of the night from early pregnancy. That's how I found out that I'm pregnant. I was like, I'm not sleeping, and I never have insomnia but when I'm pregnant. And you were like, try that. And I never believed in mind and body and breath work and all that. In fact, I always used to make fun of it. I did not think it was normal. Like it was like to me, it did not. I like evidence based, and this is yes, it's evidence based, but you cannot show me until I didn't give birth. I didn't know that the work actually succeeded. So the first time,
Yeah.
yeah, exactly. The first time I downloaded was a sleep hypnosis. And that was the first time in 5 months that I slept through the night. And I remember messaging you the next morning and being like, this really helps. I slept. So I just started doing it. I became, in general, a more calm person. I started feeling much better. I really put my work into the hypnosis. I did all the affirmations. The mindfulness wasn't really for me. I occasionally will do it, but not really for me, but that's what I like about the course. It works towards what your mind and what you feel like, and you don't have to do all of it. You could do all of it, but you don't have to. And it really does help, even if you don't do all of it or some of it.
So even before you started the course, you already started taking on the suggestions and listening to the hypnosis and the affirmations, and you started sleeping. That's amazing. I remember you sent me a message. I was so happy for you. And also, I was not shocked because I've seen this over and over and over again. I was like, yay, just another happy, successful, woman getting to sleep. Like, it's amazing. The great thing about what I teach is that not everyone connects to everything. Some women only connect to mindfulness, and some women only connect to hypnosis. Some people don't connect to breathing or, and then they love the affirmations. There are so many options. So everyone has something that they can hold on to. So hypnosis was your thing and affirmations was your thing as well. Now, once you actually took the course and you started to understand what it's doing in your brain and learning about birth, how did that feel for you? Did that change anything for you?
I was fascinated by it. I was like fascinated by all the information you gave, but like also how detailed it was and how not repetitive it was. I feel like so many times you read and read the same thing, but I feel like it really, really covered everything. I started speaking about it. I started questioning my doctors. I started understanding what's happening to me and to know the questions to ask. And also just, I feel like we're never really taught what happens to your body, to your mind, to your physical being. I feel like so many times we're like, I just give birth now, I need to bounce back. I feel like this really gives you the grace to be who you are and to allow you to really enjoy the moment of like, yes, you're pregnant. No, it's not easy. However, this is what's happening to you. And this also, I think it made it easier knowing why it's happening, knowing what's happening to my body. And that is why all these changes. And that is why you're waking up. And that is why like everything, I feel like everything was like, once you know, it makes the present so much easier.
So it was starting to make sense to you, everything. Like you were finally putting the puzzle pieces together, it sounds like, of like, okay, so number one, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong, reflecting back to your previous births and being like, was that supposed to happen? And questioning your doctors of, will this happen again? Like, starting to advocate for yourself more because now you understand the process better. So because you understand and respect physiology, you want to see how you can stack the odds in your favor of that going, in that way, which I love. And also not fearing it, right? Because when we don't know, we fear. Sometimes people, I think, are so afraid to educate girls and women because it's going to make them afraid. But not knowing is the worst thing. So when you really, really know like what's actually happening in your body when you have a contraction, what's happening in your uterus, what's happening in your cervix? What's your baby doing? What's your pelvis doing? It's so fascinating. And I personally, I could talk about it all day. And that's why, like you said, when I teach it, I'm astounded by it again and again. Every time I talk about it, it's so incredible. And the female body is just amazing, and the way that God created it. So you were connecting with that a lot, sounds like.
Absolutely. I'm a very evidence-based person. I need to understand what's going on, then I become much more calm. And this really, really did calm me down. I work at an office. I mean, I work from home, but I work at a desk. I started sitting on the ball. Like, I understood what the birth ball actually did to your body. So I sat on the birth ball for 2 months for 4 hours straight every day, because I understood that even though it's not always the most comfortable, however, it is building me towards a moment that will make it so much easier to give birth and so much easier to recover. And before that, I never understood what a birth ball does. I never understood what the benefit of it is. I enjoy knowing, then I can do, otherwise I don't do. The evidence of it all, the most important to me was that it was evidence-based, and seeing the differences. So while I was doing the hypnosis, I felt so much calmer. I was the most calm I ever was. I asked my doctor questions, and when I had a problem, I came to you. And you were like, do this, do that. And you wouldn't just answer me. If you didn't know something, you went and you did research for me. And that meant so much to me. I kept on talking about it to everyone who would listen. And I still do, because I'm like, why? If you could, why wouldn't you? That's my mentality when it comes to gentle birth, because it really changed my life forever.
I love to hear that. I'm so grateful that I got to be a little part of your journey, and I had the answers that you were looking for, and that I was able to also reach out to different resources to get you those answers. So you were sitting on the wall and you were doing your hypnosis religiously, and you were asking your doctors questions. Besides for the mental prep, the advocacy, and the physical prep that we talked about, like the ball, was there anything else that you did to prepare for birth?
I did. As you know, at the time, I still didn't think that the hypnosis was working, because you don't see the biggest results you don't see until you actually come towards birth. And I did it. And especially I knew that Yontif, I was due right after Sukkot, and I knew Yontif, I wasn't going to, with all the Yontif schedules, I wasn't going to be able to really do it. And I thought that you must do the hypnosis every single day up until you give birth, otherwise it doesn't work. So I didn't think that it was going to work, because I wasn't going to do it the month leading up to birth. So my husband's a breast lover, and my brother had told me that he had one of his kids that were due in COVID. Kiev, did not let Israelis in unless one child was an Israeli citizen. His wife generally has very difficult births, but they decided to go to Kiev, Oman, to give birth. However, being that they were in a different country, they didn't know the medical system, they didn't know the doctors. As soon as she went into labor, they decided to head into the hospital. On the way in, she started feeling a lot of contractions, and when she got to the hospital, no doctor had even touched her, and she had given birth. My brother had told me, Chanie, this has never happened before. She generally has very hard labors. I wasn't going to let my husband go to Oman this year. Wasn't going to let him. I asked him not to go, because I was in my 9th month. I had 2 kids. I was afraid it's going to be too hard for me. My brother told me, let him go. And as a chis for that, you should have an easy birth. And Taka, I stayed home with the kids. My husband went. And as we'll hear later, I actually did have an amazing birth, Baruch Hashem.
I love the spiritual side of things, because birth is, anyone that works in the birth field knows that there is this hidden hand that does everything. And as much as we can prepare and we can do, God is running the show, Hashem is running the show, and it's such a spiritual time, and everyone has their things that they connect with, either is their rebbes or their prayers or whatever it is, their lucky charm. And some women, it's just plain talking to God, and that's also so beautiful. Just feeling that connection, that spiritual side of things, really helps us feel so much more held and trusting of the process, because one of the biggest fears that people have when it comes to birth is the fear of the unknown. And we can never know, right? And the fear of the unknown is one of the greatest fears, because like we said before, knowing helps us, understanding helps us. And then there are things that we can't ever understand and we can't ever plan for. And this is where faith comes in. and trusting and leaning on that relationship and trust with your spirituality, with Hashem, with God, or, whatever it is that helps you connect with it. We have many different listeners tuning in, and some people are religious, some people aren't, but whatever that spirituality is for you, I encourage you very much to tap into it. So Chanie her husband was affiliated with a rabbi that is very popular, and we've seen really amazing things with, just connecting with that rabbi who was no longer alive. And I think it's incredible that you had that connection and your cousin, and it's really nice. So then,
Absolutely.
Your husband came back, and then what happened then?
So my other two kids were born 2 weeks early. I was convinced that this one was going to be no different. I was making all the preparations, where the kids are going to go. The kids were packed. My hospital bag was packed. And the 2 weeks mark came, nothing happened. And I started freaking out. I'm like, what if something will go wrong? Because, like you said, birth is really the unexpected. I was like, what if something's going to go wrong? And I ended up going 2 days overdue. My baby was measuring big. My doctors wanted to schedule an induction. I scheduled the induction. However, I took one last ultrasound at a different place than I took my other ultrasounds. And my baby was measuring smaller. So I called my doctor and I was like, look, either my baby is not as big or she is stopped growing. So can we cancel the induction? The entire pregnancy, I kept on saying, I'm not sure that I'll be going unmedicated. However, I would like to go into labor natural. I never knew what labor felt like. I was induced by my other two, got an epidural right away. I really wanted to understand the feeling of labor. I was afraid that I wasn't going to know what labor feels like. And I constantly had that fear. And they said, look, you're right. If the baby's not measuring as big as they did in our office, then we can cancel the induction, which I went ahead and did, Baruch Hashem. So that was like the leading up to the birth, I guess.
I want to reflect back to you for a moment and the way that you advocated for yourself when it came to doing more research before going ahead with an induction, because sometimes inductions are necessary, and I'm not anti-induction. I think that there's sometimes a medical reason for it, and we're grateful to be in a time and place where we have inductions available. But unfortunately, many times inductions are pushed on women when it's not necessary, and the way that you can know if it's necessary or not is to ask questions and to dig deeper. And if I recall correctly, when your doctor said, hey, baby's measuring big, the first thing that you did was, let me get more information. Let me find evidence-based information. And I directed you towards, I think it was, different research papers, different podcasts that you can listen to. You really did your research. And this is something that I'm so passionate about. And I talk a lot about in my course and my online courses, asking questions, because I can't ever tell a mother, you should do this or you should do that, because everyone's circumstances are so individual. But knowing how to ask the right questions and knowing how to find the right resources helps you make an informed decision. And then you had that power to go back and then say, I'm not feeling comfortable with this decision as the mother. This is my right. And how was that for you, like advocating for yourself and speaking up?
So it was a little bit scary, as I think many women would think about it as that way. However, it was very empowering because they listened, which I know is not always the case in the medical field. However, they listened. And also I knew by myself, I felt more comfortable being, after I had done my research, I might have gone the other way. However, I did feel more comfortable doing that. And it felt like I was heard. And I understood my decision that I made was based on evidence and based on my own personal feelings.
You knew your risks, you knew your benefits, and you decided ultimately what you want to do was to put a hold on the induction.
Absolutely. So
you put a hold on the induction, and then what happened? I want you to take us through the details from when you went into labor and really give us everything, because I want to hear it. I can never hear enough of it. And this is just like the best thing that you can share with the world. So tell me about it. How was the birthday for you, baby?
So the day after I was supposed to get induced, I woke up in the morning and my doctor had said, we're canceling the induction. However, you do have to come in for a non-stress test. And he goes, every day, every second day. I'm not sure the exact details of it. I woke up in the morning and I was spotting. We called the doctor, and the doctor said everything is fine. We generally do find that women go into labor or deliver within 48 hours. However, it's not something to be afraid of. Do keep your appointment for the non-stress test and see how your day goes about. Like, go about your day. I went to the doctor for the non-stress test. I was listening to hypnosis while the non-stress test was happening, and there was minor contractions, nothing out of the ordinary. I was starting to panic a little bit because, like I said, I did not know what labor feels like. I was afraid to do it on my own. I had not hired a doula. I went into a friend. While I was driving home, the contractions were starting to become more painful. I came home, sat onto the birth ball, stayed there for the remainder of the afternoon, but my contractions were coming and going. I had not considered them painful at the time. They were not consistently going up or down. I had heard that you're supposed to have, I think it was like an hour, 5 minutes apart for a minute, like at a time. That not happening. And I had very painful periods as a girl. And you'll speak to anyone who knows me will say that I cannot tolerate pain. And I was like, okay, this is uncomfortable, but this is not painful at all. So I may be in labor, but I'm probably not in active labor or anything at all. I sat on the birth wall. It came to like 5, 6 o'clock, and they were not getting more intense, less intense, closer. They were 7 minutes, 50 minutes up and down apart. However, I had decided that if I do go in the middle of the night, I wanted my kids to fall asleep and wake up in the same place. So I asked a close neighbor of mine if she would take my kids for the night, which she said sure she would. At 8 o'clock at night, my husband had taken the kids over to my neighbor. I had heard that if you labor on a toilet, you have the benefit, reverse ways, you have the benefit of a gravity plus the position of a birth ball. I decided to do that. Contractions were becoming more intense. However, I didn't realize. I had listened to Melanie the midwife's podcast a lot during pregnancy. I remember her saying multiple times that her own contractions, every contraction peaks and comes down. So I was doing that. Plus, I had put it on. The app also has such tracks to like talk you through a contraction and music in between. So you put it on as soon as the contraction starts. You stop it afterwards. And I really was not realizing that my contractions were coming closer and closer apart. I was like, yes, this is painful, but I can handle it. It came to 8:52 when I really could not breathe through a contraction. And as I've heard from you and from multiple others, that when you come to the end of labor, you feel like giving up, but that's when you're actually at the end. But when you're in it, you do not know. You forget everything. I had done a lot of research, listened to a lot of podcasts. I forgot all about it. I called my husband, and I was like, we're going into the hospital. I need an epidural. As you know, I hadn't hired a doula, but I was in touch with one who said, I can't take you anymore. However, if you would like, come. I called her up. She's like, where are you? I'm like, I'm home. And she's go into the hospital right now. I called back my husband. He was still at putting the kids to sleep. And I told him I need to go in. When by my first two, when my water broke, my water gushed. I wasn't in labor. It wasn't anything. This time around, I stood up from the toilet and I tell my husband, this baby is coming. He's like, how do you know? I'm like, I don't know. I started trickling a little bit of blood and a little bit of water and started panicking at that point. So I told him the baby's coming. We called a doula at 9:00. He arrived and I was really impressed by them because he asked me, do you want to go on the couch, on the floor? Because as I've heard from you, that when a woman is unmedicated, they can go into the oddest positions to give birth. He knocked on the door. He asked my husband if he can come in. And he...
Oh my God.
Yes. I... He asked me, he's told me to calm down. Everything will be okay. They'll take care of me. Like I said, he asked me where I want to go, and I don't know how, but I found myself on the floor. I suddenly felt like I pushed, I had a contraction, and the head was out. He's like, you're going to feel another contraction. Push again. I pushed it another 2 times, and my baby was out. I was 9:05. And my baby was 9.9 pounds. So I did not have a small baby. The baby came out, and I was like, do you have a towel? Like, we were not prepared at all.
Wow. Oh my gosh. Okay, I heard the story already, but like even hearing it again, it's still mind-boggling to me how, first of all, you were managing your contractions throughout the entire day as if like you're in early labor until suddenly you weren't, and then baby was there very shortly after. And again, not surprising because I see this a lot. Although, I encourage moms at this point after your story, and I had another like unplanned home birth. I started investigating and I told moms, even if it's not painful, if it's consistent, then maybe it's time to head in. Because I do see it with many of my clients who are very consistent with their brain training, with doing their mindset work, that by the time labor starts, if it doesn't feel so painful, it feels more exciting and like fascinating. Oh, look what's happening in my body. Like it's another contraction and you're even enjoying your labor. It sounds wild to say. So your baby is out, and what are you feeling in those moments?
I was so overwhelmed. I asked them, I'm like, is she okay? And they're like, yes. And I call it very much organized chaos because she hadn't been breathing, but Hatzalah did not raise their voice. They clamped the cords, they cut the cord. While they were clamping, one of the clamps fell off, so they had to take out another one. They had to wrap the baby around. They had to get me ready for transport, and this baby's not stable. So they really did not raise their voice, and I was in such shock of what just happened that I actually believed them that my baby was okay. Which, if they would have told me no, I probably would have started panicking. And being that my placenta was still in and the baby was still connected, I had to keep my feet up. And I probably would have dropped my foot. And that's when something could have gone terribly wrong. But they were really calm and collected, and they got everyone ready to transport. They made sure that I was covered up. I was not, when they arrived, I was not expecting to be delivered by with Hatzalah. They really were very respectful.
For those who don't know, Hatzalah is an EMS service. So shout out to Hatzalah of Muncie.
Yes, absolutely. They got us ready they transported us to the hospital, and they worked on my baby and they got her stabilized. They got me stabilized. They really were incredible. They got me transferred afterwards to a room, and my recovery was incredible. So calm. I did not take medication. And as I've said before, I cannot take pain. So for me to recover after my first two, I was in a lot of pain meds. For me to recover without pain, it was amazing.
You were just able to handle everything, and you were able to cope.
Absolutely.
And I think it's amazing. It's a true testament to all the work that you've done, because yes, someone could take a class and they can hear everything and then they just go on about their day and say, okay, I educated myself and geendigt, like I don't have to do anything anymore. But you actually took everything that I've taught you and everything that you've learned in different spaces, different podcasts and different, articles and blogs, and you applied it to your life. And you said, I'm going to invest everything to stack the odds in my favor of having a positive experience. And you really, really did that. And I think it truly shows. I think we even did a little study with Gentle Birth where we basically reviewed the amount of hours that women would practice from taking my course and then reviewing how their birth went. And we were able to see a very strong correlation on the women that actually did the brain training, that did the work consistently, like a few times a week leading up to birth. They had incredible birth experiences. And I'm saying incredible, not necessarily if we're talking about like medicated or unmedicated, but a lot of them actually ended up having unmedicated births. And many of them, didn't feel the need for an epidural and had very short labors, or it felt like it was very short because they entirely skipped the entire like first part of labor because it just felt so easy. And we saw it with you, and it was amazing.
So first, so many people have told me you must be traumatized, you gave birth on your kitchen floor. I'm like, no, are you kidding me? This was the calmest birth I have. Number one. Number two, I can go and tell my kids, if I can do it, you don't have to do it, but you can do anything you set your mind to. It really showed me that you can do anything you set your mind to. Postpartum was very calming. The app we used has a postpartum track to it. I had read Tracy Donegan's book on breastfeeding, which surprisingly did not have. I remember reading it and telling you, there's no tips. Why am I reading it? but it really just told you to trust yourself when it comes to breastfeeding, whether you want to, whether you don't. Be patient with yourself, be calm with yourself. I feel like the last page or two maybe was like a method, but it really was just that's what empowered me was the entire process of gentle birth is to trust yourself and give yourself some grace. When I'm medicated for the remainder of my postpartum, I still use the app today. He has a different like life courses too, not only birth, but more like once your baby is past the fourth trimester, to still take care of yourself and still eat healthy or not, whichever you want to do, but just to give yourself grace of whatever you're doing and to take a deep breath sometimes. And I feel like that's so important, especially when you can lose yourself. It's just sometimes to take a deep breath. And I think that's what it taught me most of all.
You know, what stands out to me from hearing your story is what you said before of, if you can do this, then you can do anything. And I wish that more women would be able to tap into that power, because birth really takes you through a portal of so much intensity. And in that portal between, you know, bringing your baby down to earth, you have to find yourself as a mother. And unfortunately, many times we numb that part either with fear or with medication or with just disassociating. And it's okay. Sometimes there's a time and place for medication. And in my course, we talk about epidural. But what I'm very much passionate about is that women should be connected with themselves in birth, whether it's with medication or not, but they should be able to connect with themselves and connect with the power of what's happening in their body and what the power that they have. And that after birth, they should feel like, if I can do this, I can do anything. I can move mountains. I can be that mama bear. I can be that powerful woman, the mother for my child. And then also you have daughters, and you'll be able to now let them know, like, you can do anything. And when you give birth, you know, this is how beautiful it was for me. It can also be so beautiful for you too. Not only this bad messaging of birth is dangerous and birth is scary and birth is always horrible, but there can be a different reality as well. You know, it doesn't have to be just like one extreme.
Absolutely. I have a young daughter, and whether we like it or not, they hear what we speak about. And the fact that she hears about birth in such a positive way, I feel like can change her future, because she's not constantly going to hear that birth is hard. She's going to hear the opposite message of you can do whatever you set your mind to.
Absolutely. I think it's so powerful. And it's all the work that you put in. It's all your credit. And I hope you're so proud of yourself.
I am, but I also give you a lot of credit. And I keep on telling people you have to take her course because it really changed me.
I'm so honored. I'm really grateful that I got to be a part of your journey and that you trusted me, you know, come to me and listen to, you know, the little things I had to say. If there is a mother that is in your shoes, she had maybe previous traumatic experiences or difficult birth experiences, and she's pregnant again and she feels like giving up, like she only knows one way, and maybe she's feeling really sick, and maybe she's also connected to IV. What would you tell her? And it can be anything, but what comes up for you? What would you want her to know?
I think that first, even though you've had previously bad birth experiences, that can change. I think that the fact that for me that it changed, and with the type of nature that I am, I did not, like I said, I did not believe in it. I did not understand it, but I feel like it could change, and you've got this. And it's just about taking one small step towards the future. If you only have time once a week, do it once a week. Do it while you go to sleep. She speaks to your mind that you do not necessarily have to be awake, and just take care of yourself, because it's really important. If you don't take care of yourself, you cannot take care of your kid, and they need you. And not only that, but you need it.
Thank you so much, Chanie, for coming on here and agreeing to share your story. And I'm sure that so many other women will be able to benefit from this. Thank you again. I really appreciate you.
Thank you for everything that you have done and that you continue doing. It really changes the world one person at a time.
I try my best.
Thank you so much for spending this time with me today.
If you're looking for more support on your journey, I'd love to invite you to check out my Brain Body Birth course at gentlebeginnings.life/BBB. That's gentlebeginnings.life/BBB. I created this course because I saw so many women walking into birth feeling overwhelmed, anxious, and unsure of what to expect. Brain Body Birth is designed to change that. Inside, I guide you through the mindset tools, evidence-based education, practical birth preparation, advocacy skills, and postpartum planning that can help you feel calm, confident, and ready for whatever path your birth takes. My goal isn't to help you have one specific type of birth. It's to help you understand your options, trust yourself, and walk into birth feeling informed, empowered, and supported. It's the course I wish every mom had before welcoming her baby. And if you found this episode helpful, I'd be so grateful if you shared with a friend, sister, or a fellow mom who could use a little extra support. Don't forget to subscribe, leave a review, and comment if your platform allows it. Those simple actions make a huge difference and help me reach more women with this information. Until next time, take a deep breath, trust yourself, and remember, you are capable. Your body is wise, and you deserve to feel supported every step of the way. And just a quick reminder that the information shared in this podcast is for educational purposes only and is not intended to replace medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Always consult your healthcare provider regarding your specific situation and medical care. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.